It's that time of week again, Better Call Saul episode 4. So this was a return of course to following Kim and Saul as they delicately try to continue their plot of trying to frame Howard as someone who he's not and putting more doubt in the mind of Cliff Main. They do this successfully with their car stunt of course, and you can see Kim is really relishing in it. She's really enjoying it, and seeing that, it kind of does make me feel bad for Howard. I do pity him in a sense, because maybe they don't like him, obviously for what he's done in the past, but I don't think he's done enough to warrant this level of scheme against him. Like what they're plotting, what they're trying to do to him, tearing down him as a person and his legacy. He's going through stuff anyway, as we see he's at therapy. It's pretty brutal, but then at the same time you're also rooting for Kim and Saul because it is just exciting and you want to see if they can get away with it, and you want to see what they'll actually end up doing. And I think we kind of know that Howard is going to find out and catch on to what they're doing, so that's going to be interesting, that dynamic when their two paths cross. And whilst I'm enjoying this plot unfold, like the rest of the season, this was quite slow, and that's only sticking out really because this is the last season. And I know it's still early days, but it is feeling a little bit sluggish. But honestly, it's not really coming as much of a complaint for me because the show has always been like this. It's always taken its time, and I think just on a week-to-week basis, it is quite painful in a sense because you just want more and more to be revealed. You want more and more to happen because it's so good. So when you only get the story shifted on a tiny bit, and then you have to wait till next week, it is it's tough, but obviously it's worth it in the long run. That's why it's paced like this. This is certainly shaping things well to link up with Breaking Bad, with Saul becoming disliked for representing Lalo, so no one in the courthouse is really a fan of him anymore. And then in Breaking Bad, he's not liked by other people, like other people in the courthouse, other lawyers. They all think he's scum. This is what kickstarts it. But Saul doesn't care because he's getting customers, he's getting paying customers, he's getting a rep, and on top of this, he's also getting enough money to the point where he can actually get his own place to practice law. And we see that is the place from Breaking Bad, that place near the courthouse. So, it's gradually getting there. He's getting closer to Saul. But even, like I said in the episode 1 and 2 review, he doesn't quite feel like Saul yet. He doesn't feel scummy enough. So something needs to take place to really take him from where he is now, which it's like he still has some good in him, to the point that he is in Breaking Bad, where he is just a scummy criminal lawyer. Of course, speaking of Lalo, he's on the loose, but we've yet to see him. We've got to assume that he's back in America because that was his plan, to come back to America. And Kim has been made aware of this by Mike. Obviously, it kind of threw my theory out the window that Howard or a PI was following Kim. But to see what she was up to, it was actually Mike's people that were following her, to make sure she's safe, because they know that Lalo isn't dead. And now Kim knows, but she hasn't told Saul, which is interesting. Maybe she doesn't want to put added pressure onto him, especially as the reason he's got all the rep is because of Lalo. I feel like we may not even see Lalo next week either. We haven't seen him for, I think, the past 3 episodes, or at least the past 2. So, when we do eventually see him again, it might be just sort of at the mid-season finale. They might just bring him in there in like a dramatic fashion, because it doesn't seem like there's any rush for him to come back. It seems like he's probably plotting something on the side, and then when he does return, I imagine we'll get an episode that is maybe quite heavily dedicated to him. Honestly, this final season of Better Call Saul is kind of reminding me of the final season of Breaking Bad, and that was season 5, of course, and the first half of that season wasn't actually that exciting. It wasn't that interesting. It was probably arguably the most boring section of Breaking Bad over all the seasons. And when watching that, you're kind of wondering where it's going to lead, because it seems like Walt's in the clear. It seems like he's sorted everything out, and you think, well, where is this even going? Like, is it just going to end peacefully? And, there's another, 10 episodes. Where is it going to go? But of course, with that show, they dropped a major bombshell in the mid-season finale when Hank has his realization. So then when the second half of that season comes along, it is just a crazy roller coaster of events and emotions. And, the last half of season 5, like, just, from mid to the end, was just amazing Breaking Bad content. Breaking Bad at its best. And I feel like Better Call Saul is trying to do the same thing. It's slowly building itself up, but different to Breaking Bad. It's not trying to contain the situation and let things die down. It's actually building up. The pressure is gently and slowly rising. So I imagine we'll get the second half of this season to be something incredible. This was a slower episode that was never really going to hit the heights, of course, of last week's episode, which is still stuck in my memory. But Rhea was actually directing this episode today. It's her first time directing. I think she did a good job. I think it was actually still a very entertaining episode, even though it was slow. I was always intrigued by the next scene. This show is very clever in the sense that every scene has you guessing about what's going to happen next and what is happening in that scene, because there's always so much just intrigue throughout this show and throughout every episode. This episode did what it needed to do. It gradually moved the plot along very, very steadily, but it's getting there, and it was still entertaining, but it probably hasn't got like much rewatch value like last week's episode did, but it was still an entertaining episode. And I feel like all this build up will of course eventually pay off. So I'd give today's episode an 8 out of 10 again. I think it sort of ranks with the first 2 episodes. It's pretty good. It's getting there. Hopefully it just bumps up the excitement a bit more next week. I do want to see some more. I think it is poised to do that because today's episode at least was just to focus on Kim and SAUL, because we barely even saw them in last week. So, next week we should get a bit of everything and it should be quite exciting, I hope. Thank you all for watching. If you've seen the episode, please let me know what you think about it and any theories you got, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.